All right, so it looks like everyone is settled. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Gwen, and I've been with Actionstep for 6 years. I'm a cross-team product expert who specializes in our billing and accounting modules. And today we're going to be talking about data-driven business decisions and how to make those using Actionstep reporting. All right, so what do we mean when we talk about making data-driven business decisions? To be honest, that could be its own webinar series, but today we've decided to focus on reviewing different types of reports in ActionStep. Three key performance indicators we found to be successful or essential for growing firms, and some additional reports that we think are incredibly impactful. So to get started, let's talk about different reporting options that exist in ActionStep. The first and most well-known is what we would refer to as our standard reporting. All ActionStep standard reports can be found under the Reports tab of your ActionStep home screen. These reports range from topics like billing, financial reports, case management, conflict checks. Much of the layout of these reports can be modified using advanced report settings. Next, we have custom reporting, otherwise known as custom list views. This is a tool that allows you to create reports that cater to your reporting needs using a wide range of available data points. From learning which of your cases are in the intake step, to seeing a list of upcoming signing meetings, to tracking the billable and non-billable time each staff member has submitted throughout the week, custom reports have you covered. Lastly, we have our heads-up reporting. This allows users to take custom reports they love and have them exported to their email inboxes on a daily and weekly basis. We'll touch on each type of report today, but for more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to our customer success team with any questions. Okay, so, talking about those big three key performance indicators that ActionStep has kind of found most growing firms are tracking and increasing. Those are going to be utilization, realization, and collection. Now more than ever, law firms should be shifting towards key performance indicators or KPIs to track the health of your firm. Whether your team is transitioning back to in-person work or planning to work remotely for the foreseeable future, most firms will see a reduction in their ability to oversee their team directly in the office. While this can be a struggle, it can also be an opportunity. By shifting to data-based performance analysis, your team may uncover information about how you work that may not have otherwise been apparent. Using efficiency metrics such as utilization, realization, and collection will allow you to focus more on outcomes and less on day-to-day people management. So let's talk about what these metrics are. Utilization. Utilization is the amount of an employee's available time that's used for productive billable work expressed as a percentage. So that's basically going to be billable time divided by available time. You want to use this metric for a number of things. One of the key things that we see in growing firms is letting you know when to quote unquote fire yourself. So if you have a partner or an associate attorney who is increasingly devoting time to administrative tasks rather than billable time, you may find that it actually will save your firm money in the long run to hire more administrative staff. That's not the only example of when using this utilization metric might be helpful, but that's one that we see a lot in growing firms. And it's important to note that this isn't just for hourly cases. So many firms that charge flat rate amounts for their fees find that in order to really assess what that flat rate should be and whether those cases that are charged on a flat rate basis are profitable, they need to be tracking their time. So at ActionStep, we want to make it clear that you really have the flexibility to do both in the system. You have that flexibility to charge on a flat rate basis, but you also have that ability to track that time so that you can pull meaningful reporting. Before we hop into reporting on utilization, we should discuss how to track time in Actionstep for fixed fee matters or hourly matters for that matter. To get started, let's discuss the billable checkbox and the bill behavior dropdown. We sometimes receive questions about whether these are redundant, and the answer is actually no. So you can think of the billable checkbox as a setting that allows you to assign a value to a time entry. If I select billable, that means I can associate a rate sheet with my time entry and multiply that rate sheet by the hour value I've indicated in that time entry. And really, that's regardless of whether you actually intend to bill for that time. So it can be a little bit of a misnomer, but for flat rate cases, this can be a really helpful tool for assessing the value of your time. The bill behavior dropdown, on the other hand, lets me indicate how this time entry should be treated in the billing system and whether that time entry should appear on my invoices and add to the overall AR balance of that invoice. So the three options are bill, hide, and no charge. A billable time entry will be included on an invoice, and the value of that entry will contribute to the overall invoice total. A no charge entry will appear as a line item on an invoice, but its value will not contribute to the AR balance. And a hide entry will not appear on a client-facing invoice at all. So really, no charge entries and hide entries are both very useful for flat rate billing firms, and it kind of comes down to how exactly you want to invoice your clients. So we have some customers who like to present billable or non-billable time on a client invoice when they're charging for a flat fee case, just so they can give that client of theirs a idea of what work is being done on the case. While we have others who would prefer to just totally omit those time entries from the client-facing invoice. Both are totally valid, and we can support both in the product. An additional tool that we like to point out that will set a standard across your system for both reporting and for your client-facing invoices is the use of quick codes. So a quick code allows you to auto-populate the description of a time entry. And this is really helpful both for getting meaningful reporting if you are doing some sort of reporting on the value of your time for your hourly and fixed fee cases. But those standardized quick codes can also help later in the process of collection, because one thing that we found is firms who use quick codes less often will sometimes have more instances of clients coming back to them and asking them what specific line items mean, or what maybe specific abbreviations chosen by the timekeeper mean. And the time spent clarifying those line items means that the invoice isn't actively being paid. So using those quick codes and implementing a policy throughout your office for use of quick codes and an internal process for what time entries should be assigned rate sheets, even if they're not necessarily billable, can help to increase a firm's utilization and get them through their billing cycles faster. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about what utilization is, let's talk about how to report on that. For weekly utilization tracking across your team, you can create a quick time entry list view. There are a number of different options for reporting here. So once I've created my list view that includes my billable hours and my non-billable hours, along with the name of the timekeeper who has tracked that time and the matter, I can choose to filter by date and matter type to see a breakdown of billable and non-billable hours for those dates and matter types. I can choose to create a heads up rule to receive a breakdown of all billable time tracked by each staff member in a given week. This can be very helpful for staff that are assigned to make sure that time entries are being entered. And I can save filters by timekeeper to get a breakdown of the total billable time and non-billable hours tracked by each timekeeper. So what we mean by that last point is if you were to save a filter for each of your timekeepers using this list view, you could quickly reference that list every time you access the time entries list to see, okay, let's double check and see, how many billable hours and non-billable hours has Gwen tracked for the week? And does that match up with the goals that we've set for that employee? All right, so once you start tracking utilization, you'll likely want to find ways that you can improve that utilization rate. So really, in any situation where you're tracking a new metric, the first step is tracking, and then the second step is improvement. So don't worry if you haven't achieved your ideal utilization rate on week 1. Here are some tools in your Actionstep system that we suggest using to help increase your utilization rate. So one of those is timesheet suggestions, and those will follow your activity throughout Actionstep throughout the week and give you suggestions for time entry creation. So if I'm someone who has trouble tracking time concurrently, I can actually use my timesheet suggestions to jog my memory and say, oh, right, okay, so on Tuesday, I sent an email from Actionstep to this client, I moved steps on this matter, and I generated a document on this matter. And that's going to really help you to determine how you've been spending your week and how you can create those time entries. Now, for users who are interested in tracking concurrent time, we have built-in timers that allow you to move throughout the program, access different screens, and those timers will still stay open. We do suggest using timers in Actionstep because one thing that we have found is that users who track time concurrently often have a higher utilization rate. And the reason for that is lawyers have a tendency, if they're putting their time entries kind of back together at the end of the week so that they can put them into their time tracking system, they may underestimate the amount of time that you've spent on a task. So if you're thinking back to how long it took you to compose an email or a document to the client, you may say, all right, well, it might have been 20 or 30 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and put 20 just to be safe. Whereas if you're tracking time concurrently, you're often going to be pretty precise in how much time you're tracking and how much time each task took. We also have a new Office 365 plugin that allows users to create time entries directly from Outlook. So this is incredibly helpful for anyone who's working primarily from Outlook and needs to also track time in Actionstep. Okay, so the next metric that we're going to take a look at is realization, and that's a measure of the amount a firm invoices versus the amount of billable work performed. And this can, again, be run for hourly or fixed fee cases. So this is important because this will allow you to pinpoint the attorneys, the practice areas, or the clients where you're seeing things like credits or write-offs or adjustments the most often. So one of the reports that we use to track realization is called the Client Profitability Report. And you may have worked at a practice management software for a little bit too long if you have a favorite billing report. But I do have a favorite billing report, and it's this Client Profitability Report. Okay, so now that we know what realization is, let's talk about how to track it in Actionstep. So I would have to say, as nerdy as this might sound, the Client Profitability Report may be my favorite report in Actionstep. And that's because that's going to include information like your realization rate, your collection rate, which we'll get to in just one moment, the average days to bill, average days to pay. There's really just a lot of useful information in this report that is going to allow you to really kind of zero in on the information that you need. All right, so now that we know what the realization rate is, let's take a look at how we can track that. The Client Profitability Report is an incredibly useful report in Actionstep. This is going to allow you to get information on your most profitable clients, and practice areas and staff members. It's also going to give you your realization percentage and your collection percentage. It's going to give you some information on specific write-off amounts and discount amounts. There's really just a ton in this report, and if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would absolutely encourage you to do so. So we'll talk a little bit more about the client profitability report when we're going over realization, but I like to emphasize to our users that this is a great report if you need to kind of change the format based on your current reporting needs. So if I need to tell today, what my most profitable practice area is, I can actually configure that report in that way. If I need to see, which my most profitable clients are, I can kind of configure the report in that way. And this can inform your management and marketing focuses. In addition, we also have the ability to track a realization summary, and this is going to give you the chance to see a full firm overview for things like particular bill types or particular action types. The write-off report is also incredibly helpful. So this is going to detail all write-offs on invoices. And those write-offs will be displayed per invoice as a summary for your entire firm. This is an ideal report for gleaning how much has been written off by matter, matter type, responsible lawyer, fee credit lawyer, etc. So because realization does relate so much to how much your billable time ends up on your invoices, being able to pinpoint areas of your practice where you're issuing more write-offs is really valuable. All right, so let's now pivot to collections. So collections are an important metric for a few reasons. Obviously, as a firm, you want to be paid in full as often as possible, as quickly as possible. In addition to that, though, collections can provide feedback on client satisfaction and well-being. If an otherwise promptly paying client is struggling to pay collections, this report can identify that, and you can sort of pinpoint that issue early on and work with the client from there. So the purpose of tracking these key performance indicators is not always just to, turn these client interactions into numbers or percentages or anything like that. They really give you a chance to catch things that you may otherwise not have caught as you were interacting with clients and going about your day. So the collection rate is the percentage and rate at which a firm's invoices are paid. Good collection reporting is the key metric for growing firms, and we see that kind of across the board. And we do have the ability to track collection across multiple action step reports. And we would suggest that you use some of Actionstep's automation and integrations to easily generate invoices, issue those invoices, and collect on your cases. All right, so you guessed it, we're back to that client profitability report. As we mentioned, this is a great report to get a percentage breakdown on your collection rate. You can also see that this report is going to give you those average days to pay and average days to bill. So if you do find that your collections are taking longer than you may have otherwise anticipated, you can use this report to pinpoint whether it is taking you longer to bill or whether it's taking your clients longer to pay. And that's a really valuable metric. In addition to that client profitability report, we also have an aged receivables report for collections. The aged receivables report details all outstanding invoice balances and aging information on those receivable balances. This provides insight into how much money can be received to your organization and how long balances have been outstanding. So this will give you some idea of, who has an outstanding bill and how long that bill has been outstanding. So in addition to reporting on collections activity in Actionstep, we've got a number of tools for improving collections activity. The number one tool that we would suggest is Actionstep's Law Pay automation. That allows your clients to quickly and easily create pay now links and include those on client invoices so that those clients can pay those invoices online. So research suggests that law firms get paid faster and get hired more often when they accept online payments. So it's probably not a secret that if you're able to provide that pay now link in your invoices, it makes it quicker and more convenient for your clients to pay you. But there's actually some reason to believe that some clients look specifically for law firms that will allow them to make payments online. So in addition to increasing your collections, this can also increase the number of clients coming to work with you. All right, and here we have our fee allocation report. So this is a report that we wanted to take a look at kind of almost as an honorable mention. It doesn't necessarily neatly fall into the category of our 3 KPIs today, but it is a really helpful report, and we found that a lot of users get a lot of use out of it. So the fee allocation report provides a detailed list of payments made on client invoices. The report details the invoice and matter and the payment that was applied, as well as the allocation against each attorney, if there is any. So if you're tracking which of your attorneys is bringing in, what amount of money or what percentage of an invoice, you can do that using the fee allocation report. So this really pairs well with our collections reporting, because in addition to seeing that your invoices are getting paid, you can also see that reflected against the timekeepers and attorneys that are actually doing work in your firm or originating those cases. Okay, and lastly, we have the time and fee entries report. This report provides you with a complete list of time and fee entries created on a matter, all types of fee entries, including hourly fixed fee, fee adjustments done at billing, discounts created at billing, and fee write-offs done post-billing. So the report includes the timekeeper, matter, and client, and the hours worked, hours to bill. There's really just a lot of information contained within this report, and this is particularly helpful in looking at the history of fees, both billed and unbilled on a case. All right, so that's all we have time for today. We're actually going to handle this Q&A a little bit differently in the interest of time. We're going to go ahead and have our attendees send any questions to customersuccess@actionstep.com. So that's all one word, customersuccess@actionstep.com. Those emails will go to myself and our customer success team, and we'd be happy to address any questions that you have about any of the cool reports or metrics that we've talked about during today's demonstration. Thank you so much for taking time with us today, and have a great day.